We do want to bring in Jeremy Rosenthal for more on this. And Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
So we do want to ask your opinion, first of all. What is your thought on the judge sentencing Hannah Gutierrez to the maximum of 18 months in prison? Did that surprise you at all?
Not really. These were pretty egregious facts. 18 months is the maximum in this case, but that's kind of a low maximum for these types of charges. I mean, we're dealing with a death. We're dealing with a tragic and unnecessary death. So all things considered, I mean, I'm not saying that getting sentenced to 18 months is any fun, but I think in many ways she got off easy, even though this is the max.
And again, we were hearing from the judge who was reading some statements that Hannah Gutierrez made during her time in jail. And she was stating that Hannah Gutierrez seemed dismissive. She seemed to paint herself as the victim in all of this. No doubt all of that played a role in why the judge decided to give her the maximum.
None of that helps. I mean, you're in the same room with the trial judge for 1, 2, 3 weeks, however long the trial takes. I mean, the judge is a human being. She's going to pick up on that type of body language. She's going to pick up on that type of attitude and that type of mentality. So, yeah, I do think that things like that probably do play a role in that. And this is a very clear shot across Alec Baldwin's bow. I don't think that he's going to enjoy the next few months as his trial is approaching. I think he's got a very clear picture for him what's at stake now.
And Jeremy, I want to talk more about Alec Baldwin because, again, his trial is set to start in July. We do need to take our final 2-minute break. Might we bring you back in 2 minutes to talk more about Alec Baldwin and really what this all implies for his upcoming trial? Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We do want to bring Jeremy Rosenthal back in to talk more about today's sentencing that a judge handed down of 18 months in prison to the Rust movie armorer. And before the break, we were talking about Alec Baldwin because, of course, he is the individual who was actually holding the gun when it went off. You were talking about today's sentencing and how might that impact Alec Baldwin's trial, which is set to start in July. Is this good news or is this bad news for him?
I think it's terrible news for him. I mean, part of this is that her entire defense was blaming the management, blaming essentially Baldwin as a producer. But I think the prosecution very clearly holds all these defendants in the same light. The prosecution did a pretty effective job with her, with Miss Gutierrez-Reed in her case, showing pictures of her pointing a shotgun at her own face. When she was interviewed by the police, it showed that potentially there was other live rounds that she didn't catch. And her defense was to blame it all essentially on Baldwin. Baldwin can try to blame her, but basically they're all just kind of admitting that this set was just loaded with incompetence. So if Alec Baldwin loses this trial, I think he sees that he's probably going to get an 18-month sentence too, because that's the max in his case. He's got everything riding on this. And if I'm Alec Baldwin, if I'm defending Alec Baldwin, I'm rooting for Hannah Gutierrez-Reed to be acquitted of this case. And when that didn't happen, I really think that just piles on the pressure.
And both Hannah Gutierrez and Alec Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter. As we saw, Hannah Gutierrez found guilty, now being sentenced to 18 months. So how does this change Alec Baldwin's arguments? How are his attorneys now pivoting? Because, again, one has to imagine, as you so rightly pointed out, they were keeping a very close eye to see on how this particular trial played out.
One advantage that Alec Baldwin has is that he got to see the pitch, if you will. In baseball, if you're facing Nolan Ryan, for instance, the first time around the batting order, those guys are going to get tricked and they're not going to really know what to expect. But the second time you see the same pitcher, you've got a better feel. Alec Baldwin has had a chance now to really gauge what's coming at him. That part is an advantage for sure, I would say. The second part of it, though, is that when Miss Gutierrez-Reed's whole defense is, well, I wasn't given enough time. I wasn't given enough training. You guys didn't give me enough money. These are all wounds and all avenues that the prosecutor didn't have at that point, you wouldn't think. So those are all things that are going to land exclusively in Alec Baldwin's lap. Now, Alec still has the defense of, look, I had no idea there was a live round in there. And I think that probably most folks believe that. But if the state of New Mexico is going to go on the theory that, look, this is just a really incompetent production altogether, and that's enough to get us to a conviction, Alec Baldwin just saw that all come to fruition. So very, very scary. And I guess what you do is you focus on the pitch that you saw, right? And you get prepared for some of the other evidence and other exhibits that were introduced against her. Plus, whether it's fair or whether it's not fair, you think that probably Alec Baldwin's going to have a little higher talent level defending him than perhaps she did.
Those are all very good points. Jeremy Rosenthal, trial attorney, we do appreciate you coming on Live Now from Fox to give us perspective and also a look ahead in terms of Alec Baldwin's trial in July. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.